Hello, hello, hello. What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday. Welcome to another edition of the weekly Astro Forecast. And this episode is all about the week of September 12th through September 18th, 2022. Thank you so much for joining today. As always, whether this is catching you live or on the replay, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. If you're new here and you're wondering, who am I? My name is Mel. I'm the founder of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So welcome. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. This channel is everything tarot, astrology, spirituality, and manifestation. So if those are the things that you like, if those are the things that you love, if those are the things you want to learn more about, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell so you'll always be notified when I come out with new content. And speaking of content, head over to Instagram and hit that follow button. I've got loads of excellent daily content. Plus, I go live every Thursday at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time for live tarot readings by sign. All right. So let's let the good people over on Twitter know that we are live so they can come over and join us. All right. So like I mentioned before, this is the weekly Astro Forecast for the week of September 12th through September 18th. All right. So I guess generally speaking, there isn't too much going on this week. I think many of us are still going to be feeling the effects of the full moon in Pisces, which just happened yesterday. So that energy is still going to be with us this week. And I don't know about you, but for me, it was definitely eye-opening, to say the least. All right. I had set plans, pretty big plans, right? Birthday plans, because my birthday is actually on September 13th, which is this coming Tuesday. And those plans literally just went to shit. So definitely eye-opening. And like I said last week, the full moon definitely had some aspects to Uranus, and that is the planet of surprise. So I think that many of us have been surprised by certain events. Certain things have opened up our eyes with the presence of the full moon in Pluto, the presence of the full moon in Pisces, and with it being conjunct to Neptune. Many of us are seeing the reality of certain things, of certain people, of certain situations. And so I felt like a lot of that was going on with the full moon. A lot of that's going to be continuing into this week. All right. But before we get into the nitty gritty of everything that's going on, let's do my commercial, because I do this every week. All right. So if you are new to astrology, or even if you started studying astrology but need a refresher, I created this thing called the Astrology Basics Cheat Sheet, which gives you the quick and dirty on everything you need to know to start learning astrology. Okay. So it covers the planets, the houses, the signs, and the aspects. And it's an 11-page PDF document that, again, gives you the quick and dirty on everything you need to know. These 4 things are basically the 4 pillars of astrology. Knowing these things, committing these things to memory, and understanding what these things are, it's what allows you to start learning more advanced topics in astrology. But most importantly, these things are the basics for you to start to learn your natal chart and how to read your natal chart, because your natal chart is the blueprint to your life. And many times when you first encounter your natal chart, you're like, what the hell is all this? All these symbols, numbers, all this stuff. It can be a bit confusing. But once you get these four things down, and again, it's the planets, the houses, the signs, and the aspects, that'll get you at least a fundamental view of what your natal chart looks like, and you're able to sort of understand it a bit better. So if you're looking to download this free Astrology Basics cheat sheet, you can find the link in the description box below. All right, so let's get into the highlights for this week and see what we have. So first we have what I like to call get out of your comfort zone. So the way that the moon is moving this week is going to have us, or the energy is going to be at our disposal to sort of get rid of the things that we don't need. However, the signs that the moon is going to be in is going to make that a little difficult, because the moon is going to be in a sign of exaltation and in its home sign. And whenever the moon is in those 2 signs, it's very difficult for us to move forward. I wouldn't say move forward. Let me rephrase that. It's very difficult for us to get out of our comfort zone, because we just want to be comfortable. We just want to engage with what we know, what we're comfortable with. But with the moon being in the waning phase, it's going to be imperative that we sort of get rid of the things that we don't need, get rid of excess clutter, whether it's physical or emotional, so that we can move forward and start to make room for the new moon, which is going to be happening in the next 2 weeks. All right. So one of the challenges we're going to have this week is to sort of get out of our comfort zone and do a little bit of emotional cleanup. All right. Then the next thing that we have that's important this week is what I like to call a date with destiny. So over the last couple of weeks, we've had the North Node playing a pretty important role in the astrology, right? I feel like there have been quite a few planets making aspects to the North Node, and the North Node represents our destiny, our fate, where we're headed in this lifetime. And so the beautiful thing about the astrology this week is that we have a date with destiny, and almost effortless happenstance sort of situation where we may find ourselves in the right place at the right time with the right people. So I feel like it's going to be a pretty exciting week, particularly towards the end of the week, because things that we may not anticipate, things that may be a bit surprising in a good way may be happening, and these things may allow us to move in the direction that we're meant to move into. So definitely a pretty good week. So speaking of the week, let's take a look and see what we have. All right. So on Tuesday, my birthday, we have the moon moving into the sign of Taurus, and Taurus is the sign of the moon's exaltation. Okay. Then on Thursday, we have the moon moving into Gemini. Thereafter, on Friday, we have the sun opposite Neptune and Venus square Mars. And then on Saturday, we have that date with destiny when Venus trines the North Node. And then we close out the week on Sunday with the sun trine Pluto, Mercury opposite Jupiter, and the moon moving into its home sign of Cancer. All right, so without further ado, let's just take a look at the week day by day and see exactly what's going on. So like I said, on Tuesday, we have the moon moving into the sign of its exaltation, which is Taurus. And you'll see that at the top right-hand side of your screen. Taurus has a lot going on because we've got the North Node there, plus we've got Uranus retrograde. So there's a bit of sort of unstable energy in Taurus. Basically, what this means is that there's a lot of upheaval. There's a lot of shifting energy, a lot of energy that's really shifting us out of our comfort zone. So that's why I said this week, we're going to be challenged to really get out of our comfort zone, especially with the moon transiting through Taurus on Tuesday and into Wednesday. Many of us are going to be challenged to sort of do some emotional work, allow things to be shifted out of place, and get out of our comfort zone. All right. So let's get into it. So like I said, we're fresh off the heels of the full moon in Pisces, which just happened yesterday. All right. So it was probably pretty emotional for you. If it wasn't emotional, I feel like it was pretty eye-opening with the presence of Uranus in the mix of the full moon astrology, like I mentioned in last week's weekly Astro Forecast. You might have had some surprising happenings, maybe some chance encounters, but by and large, I feel like for most of us, this full moon was very eye-opening. I felt like many of us got to see the reality of a particular situation or regarding a particular person or pertaining to a particular thing. I think the rose-colored glasses came off. We saw the harsh realities of that. And now it's like, what do we do with this information, right? We know what the reality of the situation is. We know what we're supposed to be doing. The full moon illuminated it. Now, what do we do? All right. So currently the moon is now in Aries. Okay. And so when the moon is in Aries, we are definitely inspired to start something new. We have sort of this push and this drive and this ambition to start new things. And with the moon in the waning phase, now that we've crossed the threshold of the full moon phase, it's all about getting rid of the things that we don't need, particularly emotionally, right? So I feel like with the moon in Aries currently on Sunday today, I feel like many of us are going to be sort of motivated to act on whatever it is we learned at the full moon. Okay. So let's say there's a particular situation in your life that was completely illuminated by the full moon. I feel like with the moon in Aries, you're going to be motivated to sort of act on that information, right? So maybe it's time to get rid of that particular person or get rid of a particular situation, do some emotional cleanup. I feel like that's definitely the vibe between today and Tuesday, right? But then on Tuesday, the moon is going to move into its sign of exaltation, which is Taurus. And when the moon is in Taurus, the last thing that you want to do is anything new. You're sort of in this vibe of wanting to be comfortable, of wearing your sweats, just watching TV, relaxing. You have no inclination whatsoever to do anything, right? But with the moon in the waning phase, it's always a great time, like I said before, to do some emotional cleanup. And so with the moon in Taurus, I feel like that's when we're really going to be challenged to act on whatever we learned at the full moon in Pisces. Now, I feel like between today and Tuesday, you may feel motivated because the moon is in Aries. So you're going to feel motivated to get rid of something, get rid of someone, basically everything I said before. But then come Tuesday, you're not going to feel as motivated anymore. And so I feel like that's where we're going to be challenged, right? Because when the moon is in Taurus, peace, serenity, comfort is what we're craving. And all of our actions are typically geared towards those things. So again, I feel like on Tuesday, it's like, that phrase, keep that same energy. So probably on Saturday at the full moon, you learned something, you were illuminated as to a particular situation or person. I feel like today you're still amped, you're still high off of that information. You're like, yes, I want to do this, that, and the third. I want to get rid of this. I want to get rid of that. Cool. But then by the time Tuesday rolls around, you're going to be like, I don't necessarily feel like doing it anymore. It's whatever. Like feeling a bit lazy. Okay. So that's why I feel like when the moon is in Taurus, we're going to be challenged to maintain that same energy, get out of our comfort zone and make those changes, get rid of those things that we really don't need. All right. But luckily, come Thursday, when the moon moves into Gemini, and you'll see that at the bottom right-hand portion of your screen, I feel like some of that motivation, or at least some of that energy to sort of keep that same energy and get rid of the things that we don't need, I feel like that is going to be restored because Cancer, Gemini is that busybody energy. With Gemini energy, I feel like it's all about doing, right? It's all about socializing. It's all about communicating with people, all of that good stuff, right? And so by Thursday, I feel like while earlier in the week, we started feeling a little lazy. We kind of didn't want to do much. By the time Thursday rolls around, I feel like that's going to change, right? You're going to feel like socializing, interacting with people, learning new things. Gemini, like I said before, is busy body energy. So expect to be busy by Thursday, definitely going into Friday. And again, because the moon is still in the waning phase, that's when you're going to want to get rid of the things that you don't need. So I feel like even though Gemini is going to give you that of the things that you don't need. So I feel like even though Gemini is going to give you that energy, I'm not necessarily sure it's going to make you feel like doing much. I feel like you're going to start to get clear on what it is that you don't want. So it's sort of like this energy of getting clear in your thoughts, clear in your communication so that you can get rid of the things that you don't want to do. So it's a great energy for planning, not necessarily the greatest energy for doing because your energy tends to be pretty scattered when it comes to Gemini. But nonetheless, that's what we have to look forward to on Thursday. All right. So moving right along, we get to Friday. So on Friday, we have a couple of things going on. First, we have the Sun opposite Neptune, and then we have Venus square Mars. And these are two interesting sort of transits and definitely interesting to be going on at the same time. So let's start with the Sun opposite Neptune. So this is one of those transits that can be a bit unfortunate, okay? Because it's one of those transits where people tend to be taken advantage of. It makes you more susceptible to confusion and deception. It's hard to decipher what's what with this transit. Anytime you have Neptune in the mix, things get foggy, things get a little cloudy, right? On the one hand, we have the sun, right? We have the sun at one extreme because we're talking about an opposition. And with the sun illuminates everything. Things tend to be pretty clear with the sun. But then you have Neptune, which sort of puts a fog over everything on the other end of the extreme. So on the one end, you may feel like you know what's going on, but the presence of Neptune always makes things a little bit uncertain, a little bit unclear, a little foggy. All right. And so that's why it lends itself to deception. Neptune is one of those planets that is all about deception because it's about illusion, deception, enchantment, all that great stuff. So if you find that you feel a bit insecure, if you find that you feel a bit discouraged, that's definitely Neptune at work because those are sort of the characteristic or textbook expressions of that Neptunian energy. All right. But however, this transit is great for creativity. That's like the plus side of Neptune. While on one end, It can be very illusory, very deceptive, but on the other end, it's great for creative endeavors. So it's not one of the best transits to get any serious work done. It's more of those transits where you want to just be creative, let things flow, and that sort of thing. But you're definitely going to want to be a bit vigilant, especially if anyone's trying to sell you anything, they're trying to involve you in anything, because deception can be very prevalent with this transit. So again, don't get got. If there's anything that you take away from this particular transit, it's don't get got. If something seems too good to be true, it most likely is. So be vigilant. Don't do things like, give people your credit card information, your social security number, all that stuff, because this is one of those transits where scammers thrive. Okay. So forearmed is forewarned, basically. All right. And it's also one of those transits that makes you want to shy away from lots of competition, or even very competitive or assertive people. I feel like you may tend to feel a bit more sensitive, especially if you have insecurities related to competition and things like that. I feel like this transit is going to heighten those. So it's going to be one of those transits where you're not going to want to really put yourself out there or engage in any sort of competitive activity or situation, because it may just bring up your insecurities. All right. So it's one of those transits that don't necessarily feel that good, but I feel like the best use of your time and energy on Friday will definitely be creative pursuits. So that's definitely something to think about. All right. Then that same day we have Venus square Mars. And this is one of those transits that can express itself in a variety of different ways for different people. Now, the caveat is that any sort of transit affects everyone differently, because it all depends on how this transit is being expressed via your particular natal chart, right? But on the one end, Venus square Mars, it has a lot of love and sex undertones, right? And I feel like one of the key phrases for this particular transit is sexual tension. So if you have a relationship where there is a lot of sexual tension, I feel like this particular transit is going to bring that out. Even if you have a romantic relationship with someone, right, and you have some underlying sexual tension, I feel like Venus square Mars makes things a bit more competitive. It makes things a bit tougher. It can make things a bit awkward in that regard, right? But if you have a relationship that's thriving, I feel like this transit can be really great for sexual activity, for increased passion in your relationship. But that's really only if your relationship is already thriving. If your relationship is on unsteady ground, I feel like a lot of that competitive nature, a lot of ego conflicts may get in the way and may cause a lot of problems in relationships that are not particularly stable at this time, right? If you're single and, relationships aren't necessarily what's at the forefront of your thoughts, I feel like you're going to have an increased sex drive. It could also make you feel a bit more attractive. So attracting people and talking to new people definitely will be a good thing with this transit. I feel like it's just that sexual tension and that sort of tense energy in existing relationships that could sort of make this transit not so good. Right. Affairs are likely under this transit, but they wouldn't be long lasting. They would kind of just be a fly by night kind of thing. Sort of really good for instant gratification, but not necessarily good for anything long term. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Now, one of the things that I've seen play out in real life with this transit is sort of this tension between war and peace, because Venus is the planet of love, of harmony, and of peace. Mars is the planet of war and competition. So you may find that wherever this transit is playing out in your chart, it may have these undertones of peace versus war, right? Another way I've seen this transit play out is sort of this tension between staying with what you know and moving on to something new, okay? Because Venus also rules Taurus, and Taurus is notoriously stubborn. Taurus likes to stay in its comfort zone, doesn't necessarily like to try anything new, right? We have that with Venus. And then Mars is all about trying something new, being bold, dynamic, assertive, blazing a new trail. So for some, I feel like this transit may be you feel conflicted between staying with what you know and trying something new. And with Venus in the mix and Venus representing relationships, this could definitely play out in the relationship arena. Now, not necessarily romantic relationships, although that's obviously part of the picture, but it could definitely play out with friendships, with business associations. You may just want to stick with what you know, who you know, what you're used to, whereas that Martian energy wants you to blaze a new trail, perhaps meet new people, network with new people, interact with new people. So you may find that this sort of dichotomy has you feeling conflicted. And sometimes when we're conflicted, we end up doing nothing, right? And I feel like that's sort of the essence of this particular transit. It's like not necessarily doing anything, okay? Another way I see this transit playing out is passive aggressiveness, right? Because we've got Venus wanting peace, Mars not being afraid of confrontation, and sort of this passive aggressive kind of energy. So again, for relationships that aren't on the best of terms or aren't on stable ground right now, I feel like you may find that there's this passive aggressiveness and not necessarily taking any definitive stance on anything, okay? So those, I feel like Friday's not the best day. I feel like for some, you may be, down in the dumps. You may be feeling insecure. You may be feeling like you've been taken advantage of, all of that nasty kind of stuff. And at the same time, we have Venus square Mars, which passive aggressiveness, war versus peace, like feeling like you want to move forward, but then not necessarily wanting to do so. So Friday isn't necessarily the best of days. All right. But the astrology is what it is, and you kind of just have to work with it. And like I say, always, forewarned is forearmed. If you know this stuff ahead of time and then you encounter it as the week goes on, you'll know how to deal with it. And that's the purpose of why I do what I do. Okay. I guess this is sort of a little random segue, but yeah, the whole point of astrology, it's not always necessarily just to predict the future or anything like that. It's to know the current climate. And when you know the current climate, you can sort of dress the part, right? If you know it's going to rain, you can bring an umbrella. If you know that it's going to snow, you're going to have your snow boots with you, right? That's the whole point of doing this, that you can be prepared for what is ahead. All right. So that's Friday, which kind of sucks, but not all days can be sunshine and rainbows. So next up on Saturday, we have what I like to call the date with destiny. We have Venus trine the North Node. You'll see Venus at the bottom portion of your screen at 14 degrees Virgo. And then we have the North Node at 14 degrees Taurus. Now, Uranus is also closely in tow to the North Node. So what I love about that is that it's the hand, I like to call Uranus the hand of God, right? It's like things that we can't control. It's all about sort of letting things happen, surrender to the unknown, right? And I love this because the North Node is all about where we're supposed to go. And the fact that the North Node is conjunct Uranus, it's really about letting go of the reins when it comes to your destiny, when it comes to your fate, where it comes to your purpose or where you're trying to go in this life, right? It's sort of just letting it happen, surrendering and seeing where the chips fall, right? And that's exactly what's going to happen over the weekend on Saturday. But what I love about this is that with Venus trine the North Node and, Uranus in the mix, it's like being at the right place at the right time with the right people. And I want to stress with the right people because Venus is all about relationships. And so it's almost like the right relationships are going to come into your purview. It's going to come into your consciousness, being in the right place, having the right things, right? Because the North Node is currently in Taurus. Now, Taurus rules tangible things like products, like tangible things that you can touch, right? So maybe whatever you need to get the job done, whatever you need to have in your possession, whatever you need to accomplish your purpose, your job, your work, whatever, is finally going to come to you. I'll give you a perfect example. Let's say that your destiny or your purpose is disseminating information. Maybe the time has come for you to start your own YouTube channel and start talking about the things that are important to you, things that you want to teach people, etc. But you've been thinking about it over the last couple of months and you're just like, I don't know where to start. I need all of these things. I feel like Venus trine the North Node, it might be like, okay, you finally are able to afford the perfect camera to start filming your videos. Or maybe you now understand how to use Adobe Premiere Pro so you can edit your videos, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be a knight coming on a white horse to save you, right? And you ride off into the sunset together. Although that could be the case, depending on where it's going down in your natal chart, of course. But it could just be having the right things in order to move forward, right? So I love it because with the presence of Uranus conjunct the North Node, it's all about happenstance. It's going to be random, but it's going to be beautiful, right? Because trines are all about harmony. And so harmoniously, things will come to you that you need. The right people will find their way to you, or vice versa. You may find your way to them. But it's going to be this effortless date with destiny. And whatever is needed in your life to get you to where you need to go is pretty much just going to fall in your lap. And so I really love that. I love that you don't have to do anything. I love that you have to just be, just surrender, be, and watch how everything unfolds. All right. So that's definitely something to look forward to over the weekend. All right. And then finally, we get to Sunday. I feel like this live is going to be a little shorter because there isn't that much going on this week. But on Sunday, we have the sun trine Pluto. Then we have Mercury opposite Jupiter. And then the moon is going to move into its home sign of Cancer. All right. And you can see that whole mess going on the chart. And the sun is not too far from Mercury. All right. So we've got the sun in Virgo. We've got Mercury in Libra, but it's making its way back into Virgo since it's retrograde. We have the moon in Cancer. And then we have Jupiter in Aries and Pluto in Capricorn. All right. So let's dissect this one by one. So first, we have the sun trine Pluto. And I love this transit because it's very empowering. The sun energizes and illuminates things. It sort of brings the truth to things. And when the sun is trine Pluto, it not only brings very deep and profound experiences, but experience that serve to empower you and sort of remind you of your power and remind you that you have control over things in your life, right? It's one of those transits that's also really good for gaining full understanding of something, especially something that you're particularly interested in or something that you feel very passionate about. All right. So that's something to look forward to. Having greater power and influence over your life. Okay. And what's great about that is that it leads to positive transformation. So not only does the sun trine Pluto empower you, but it allows you to change your life for the better if you use the energy to your advantage, of course. Right. So relationships with people in power may come into focus, may come into purview. You can make a lasting impression on people who are in a position of power or in a position of superiority, right? And this is great, especially on the work front, because this allows you to impress bosses, authority figures, superiors, managers, supervisors. So talking about transforming your life for the better, if you're able to impress the people who are in the position to make decisions, then you can sort of control your social mobility, right? Or even your work mobility. You're able to impress the people that matter so that they can promote you, they can give you more responsibility, all that good stuff. So I really like that transit for that particular reason. It also allows you to clear away clutter in your environment. So again, this sort of circles back into what I was saying before about getting out of your comfort zone and doing the work. So it directly correlates to the cycle of the moon. The moon is in the waning cycle, which means that we're sort of getting rid of things. We're decluttering ourselves emotionally, maybe even our physical spaces. And the sun trine Pluto also supports that. So this is definitely a great week to get out of your comfort zone, make some changes, because especially by the end of the week, sun trine Pluto is going to support those changes in a way that's going to profoundly affect you. And again, transform your life for the better. This transit also lends itself to taking on a leadership role in your career. Okay. So again, if you are impressing the right people, this can get you to be elevated in status when it comes to your career, when it comes to your job. If you own your own business, people are going to see you in a higher regard. So again, goes back to being able to transform your life for the better. And then finally, it promotes things like astrology. It's one of those transits where you can learn astrology, but have a better and fuller and more profound understanding of it. So if it's something that you're interested in, maybe you should start with my Astrology Basics cheat sheet. Again, link is in the description box below. All right. So that's the sun trine Pluto. Next, we have Mercury opposite Jupiter. Now, because Mercury is currently retrograde, we just had this same exact transit a couple of weeks ago. I want to say like 2 to 3 weeks ago, actually. And it's nice because it allows you to feel optimistic and hopeful, particularly about the future. Okay. Now, what I like about this is that with the presence of Mercury being retrograde, and it being in this aspect to Jupiter, it allows you to redo things, but better. I feel like something that happened in the past, and again, it all depends on where this is going down in your own natal chart, right? But something in the past, you're going to be able to look at it more fondly. You're going to be able to look at it more optimistically. And when you look at something more optimistically, you're able to make better changes, right? You're able to change things for the better because you're thinking of it from a better place. Okay. So this is about seeing the bigger picture. This is about skipping details and really seeing the bigger picture of things. This brings many opportunities for success. And with Mercury being retrograde, many opportunities from the past can be coming back around. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I am getting over a cold. And I'm feeling crazy right now. Oof. I'm sorry, my throat is itchy. And all of this talking is kind of, yeah, I'm fine though. All right, so basically, Mercury opposite Jupiter, opportunities from the past, and you're going to be looking at them more fondly. Ooh, my voice is like all over the place. Looking at them more fondly and more optimistically. All right. I'm going to have to wrap this up because my throat is giving out on me. And then finally, we have the moon moving into its home sign of Cancer. So again, it's the moon's home sign. Instinctive need for security, peace. Again, it's more about being in your comfort zone. But because the moon is in the waning phase, you're going to want to get out of your comfort zone so that you can get rid of what you no longer need. All right. Now, the moon is actually going to be in the last quarter phase. Oh, sorry. I completely apologize. Now, during the last quarter phase, that's when you take responsibility for your past actions. So whether things went well or not so well, you sort of have to take responsibility for it and move forward. All right. And by taking responsibility, that's how you're able to get rid of what you don't need. You realize what worked, what didn't, get rid of what you don't need and move forward. All right. It's going to be an emotional time because that's the moon's home sign. So expect emotions to run kind of high, but it's also a good time to spend time with family, take care of your personal emotional needs, all of that good stuff. So by and large, we end the week on a pretty good note. I like the energy of Sun trine Pluto. Mercury opposite Jupiter allows things from the past to come back around, but in a better sort of way, or at least more optimistically. And the moon in its home sign of Cancer is a great way to start the week. Spend time with family, do things around the home, be a little emotional. Excuse me. Be cozy and all that good stuff. And on that note, sorry. Woo. And on that note, that is this week's weekly Astro Forecast. I sincerely hope that you were able to get at least one important piece of information from this live or this replay. Yeah, I need to get some water. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Take care.